Okay, thank you everyone. It's a little quiet down. We're unmuted right now. Thank you to those joining online. As a few reminders, this is a public meeting and it was advertised as such. It is being recorded and we will post it online. Meeting transcripts will be used for our task associated with our report that's due in December. We will have a webpage with workgroup materials and all public information. The media is here today and online. For those of you online, please be sensitive and use your Zoom etiquette. Please stay muted if you're online and use your reaction icons if you're having an issue or if you would like to communicate with the group in the room. If you're a work group member online, please raise your hand to indicate that if you would like to speak. Please be mindful of our time together today and speak in order to move the conversation forward. And also, please be respectful of other people's perspectives, offering kindness and patience as we work through this topic over the next few months. And just as a reminder, this work group is assembled today to complete the task specified in Joint Resolution 79. So to kick things off, I'm going to introduce my boss, Secretary Rebecca Goodman, and then we'll turn it over to Senator Carroll for some welcoming remarks. Secretary Goodman, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces. This is going to be exciting, I think. We have just returned from a great conference in Paducah last week for advances in small nuclear. It was just a pleasure to be in a room with people who were obviously way more educated on nuclear than I am, but people who were willing to share and really saw a future for this. So I spoke on a panel with their introductory panel with Senator Carroll, and I think everybody who was up there on that stage that day was of like mind. There is a place in Kentucky for this. So, but we need your help. Everybody on here is on here for a reason. And I'm looking forward to having a very cooperative, very congenial, very great effort put into this and preparing an excellent report at the ending. So I'm going to let Senator Carroll take the floor now.
Senator Carroll, if you'll unmute, and floor is yours.
Can you hear me okay, Kenya?
Yes.
Very good. Secretary Goodman, thank you, and appreciate cooperation from your office with all that's going on, and that means a lot. And Kenya, thank you for your leadership throughout this. And, you know, we can accomplish a lot when we're working together as a legislative and executive branch. And this is, I guess, really the second opportunity I've had to see that over the past year. I spent a lot of time working with Secretary Harvey on the DJJ issue. And as a result, we came out with some excellent legislation during the last session. And this effort to bring nuclear to Kentucky and related industry. Those of you who attended the ECA forum or participated in some way, thank you so much for that. That meant a lot to our community, and you know, it was a very exciting event for me, and I think I have officially turned into a science geek in relation to nuclear energy. Have absolutely no background in this whatsoever. I became interested through legislation when I took over Bob Leeper's seat and getting the moratorium lifted, and we were fortunate enough to do that. And ever since then, I spent a lot of time reading articles, and I always say I know enough to get myself in trouble, but it just fascinates me that where we are and the direction we're headed in as a country. And I didn't realize until that forum really the speed that this country is moving towards moving in that direction towards nuclear. the opportunities that are out there, the technologies that I wasn't aware of that are out there. So just a very exciting time, very eye-opening. Had the opportunity to speak with a couple folks who are already working on through their companies, bringing nuclear energy to our Commonwealth. So I think we're further ahead than I thought we were, but we need to make sure that we take the appropriate steps. And you all remember from the forum that we've got to be open for business. And I think that's really what this next step is all about, to get us prepared and to set a path for where we need to be in this Commonwealth to be accommodating to nuclear and make sure we're all working together, as Kenya said. Kind of an unusual way for the legislature to set up a working group. Normally, as the procedure is now, we put a bunch of legislators on a panel and then the experts would come and testify. We did not feel like it was the best way to accomplish what we needed to do through that model. And that's why we asked if Kenya and Secretary Goodman would host this working group, because she has the expertise, and her office has the ability to draw the experts together like we have, as evident by all of you all who are part of this. So I'm very grateful that we were able to work together through that. And I really think this is the best model to accomplish what we need to do, primarily to set up a nuclear commission in the Commonwealth and decide how we need to do that. We spent a lot of time during the session talking with other states on how they're set up, more specifically Virginia. We had 2 or 3 meetings with them, but we really didn't get comfortable with really what we needed in our Commonwealth and looking at where we are compared to other states. And that's what really led to the decision to set up this working group and to answer those questions and use the expertise that we have available to make sure that the model that we set up is best suited to move us forward as a state. But exciting times in our Commonwealth, in our country, in relation to nuclear, and it's an honor to work with all of you all and to do my part on the legislative end. And again, I don't claim to be an expert in this area whatsoever. I'm learning every day. But we are very fortunate to have Kenya and the expertise and excitement that she brings to this topic. And I think all of us working together, we're going to make a difference in this state, and we're going to set a future for our kids and our grandkids. It's going to be meaningful in the area of energy and quality of life. So I'll leave it at that, Kenya. Again, thank you so much, and thank all of you for being here.
Thank you, Senator Carroll. We'll move through our agenda today. First, we need to get to know each other, even though I know a lot of us are longtime friends and colleagues, but we do have those online that are representing some organizations that we may not be as familiar with. So what I'd like to do today is go through the work group members. Each work group member can introduce themselves, the organization, and what they're bringing to the table from a nuclear perspective. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kenya Stump, the Director of the Kentucky Office of Energy Policy. I'd like to acknowledge Carol Stringer. She's our federal program specialist, helping me today, and has helped coordinate this event. Also, for those of you, Victor Ibarra is with us today from the Nuclear Innovation Alliance. We are contracting with Nuclear Innovation Alliance to be our technical support for the work group, as well as to provide support to the Office of Energy Policy as it relates to the tasks set in front of us over these next few months. I don't want to let Senator Carroll down. We have a report due. So you will get to know Victor one-on-one. If you receive an email or a phone call from Victor, please answer it. And schedule some time. Victor is going to do a lot of our legwork around our tasks that we're here to accomplish. Next, I'll turn it over to Public Service Commission Representative Linda. If you want to.
I'm Linda Bridwell. I'm with the Public Service Commission. I'm the Executive Director. So this is my first opportunity with this group, and so I'm learning. I came actually from the water side of the utility industry, but I've got a lot of great support. I'm looking forward to learning little bit more about the direction we're headed, so.
Thank you, Linda. Next we have, it's nice that you all sat next to each other. We have the UK Center for Applied Energy Research, and Senator Webb, you can just sit if you'd like to over there. Dr. Rodney Andrews is with us today, and I know Sheila Medina is online, so Dr. Andrews, turn it over to you.
You already said it anyway. I'm Rodney Andrews, I'm the director of the UK Center for Applied Energy Research and senior associate vice president of research at the university. I guess if I'm supposed to say what we bring to this, one thing is I teach fundamentals of nuclear power at the university. I also come to this with background in doing carbon materials development, which also includes nuclear graphite and other high temperature materials for nuclear technologies.
I didn't even plan this. I'm so glad you all sat in order. So, from LG&E and KU, we have two representatives. We have John Crockett. I don't know if John's here today, Aaron, and then we have Aaron Patrick of PBL. So Aaron, I'll turn it to you.
So my name is Aaron Patrick. I'm Director of Research for the PPL Corporation. And I'm here today on behalf of LG&E and KU, and as well as John Crockett, President of LG&E and KU. So I'm really excited to be here. We are always looking at technologies that could help us achieve our mission, which is to provide safe, reliable power at the lowest possible cost. And so any and all technologies are on the table to be evaluated. So that's our interest here.
And Senator Webb is here. So Senator Webb, would you like to provide any comments?
Senator Robin William, I represent District 18, part of Board Lewis counties in Northeast Kentucky. I'm just an old coal miner. I've got 2 mining degrees, but I also have an energy degree. So for the last practicing attorney on energy related issues for 36 years, been in the General Assembly for 25 and served on most energy committees.
Thank you. And for your participation. Next, we have Ms. Spiller here from Duke. And so, Ms. Spiller, I'll turn.
And I apologize for not sitting. In the right. Good morning, I am Amy Spiller from Duke Energy. I lead our utility operations in Northern Kentucky and Southwest Ohio. Duke Energy, as some of you may know, we operate the largest regulated fleet of nuclear power in the Carolinas. We have 11 units there, like 11 gigawatts, servicing probably 50% of our power needs in the Carolinas. So I bring some expertise to the table and access to just a lot of background and history with nuclear energy. So in Northern Kentucky, we are thinking through our future power needs and really excited to be a part of this conversation.
And next, East Kentucky Power, we've got Don Mosher with us.
Good morning, I'm a past nuclear geek as well. I'm Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer at East Kentucky. East Kentucky serves about 2/3 of the world population here in Kentucky. It's 87 out of 120 counties, but we're also looking long term at our portfolio. The first half of my career, I spent in nuclear power coast to coast. Around nuclear power plants in the design, operation, and construction. Areas that work with 4 progress energy plants for nuclear part of it. And I'm dedicated to nuclear power. I think that is the future. I've always thought that was good. And it's gotten a bad rap. New technologies, I think they dispel all of the fears about nuclear power. Very supportive of.
And next in the room, we have Lane Boldman with the Kentucky Conservation Committee. So Lane.
Hi, Lynn Goldman, Kentucky Conservation Committee is a citizen advocate for the environment, good environmental policy. We are very interested in energy transition issues of all kinds. Looking forward to this conversation. Certainly we'll be watching for environmental impacts. From experience, I grew up 10 miles from Fernald, so it was an issue that I paid attention to at youth. I'm looking forward to the new technology opportunities here as well.
And somebody was hiding Mike Kurtz, you're here as well, so I'll turn it over to Mr. Kurtz.
Okay, Mike Kurtz, counsel for Kentucky Industrial Utility Customers, KIUC. We represent the largest industries in Kentucky and KPSC rate members.
And now we'll turn to our online work group attendees. I will call out your organization. You can unmute and turn on your video, and then you can do your introduction. So first we have AEP Kentucky Power, Joe Yeagler. If you'd like to unmute, Joe.
Yep, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Joe Yeagler with American Electric Power, representing Kentucky Power, Managing Director of Projects. Like the others, we're very interested in developing nuclear if we can, and working through that in Kentucky. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Joe. Next, we'll turn it over to Chris Perry, Kentucky Association of Electric Cooperatives. Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We're excited about this. I represent the 26 cooperatives. Don Mosier in the room there. East Kentucky Power is part of that group, which certainly has more experience on the generation side, but I represent the cooperatives legislatively, regulatory, and as a system engineer and operating engineer for utilities for 30 years. Very excited about where we're going with this, and look forward to being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And next we have Kentucky Municipal Electric Association, Annette or Dave Carroll. If you're on, you can unmute. We'll come back to Annette. Let's go to TVA. We have Mr. Scott Honeywell, who I got the pleasure to meet last week. So Scott, if you would like to unmute and provide some introductions.
Sure. So I'm Scott Honeywell. I'm the Vice President of the new nuclear program for TVA. And I've kind of split my career. I've got about half my career going back to 1988 in nuclear power, starting at the Department of Energy Savannah River site. And the other half of my career I've spent in construction. So I think I bring to the team kind of some diverse knowledge on nuclear technologies, and also what it will take to deploy the various technologies.
Not to mention, Scott, you've got Clinch River.
That is correct. We do have the Clinch River site that we're evaluating deploying new nuclear at.
There you go.
There we go. Next, we have U.S. Nuclear Industry Council, Todd, and I'm going to butcher this, so I'm sorry, Abrahano.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's Todd Abergiano. I'm the president and CEO of the U.S. Nuclear Industry Council. We represent over 80 companies and organizations throughout the new nuclear space, including advanced reactor developers, construction EPC type organizations, and the rest of the supply chain across the board. We're based in Washington, D.C., but we get around the country quite often. Every year, we host an Advanced Reactors Summit. This year, we're hosting our 10th one in Charlotte, which is next month. So if anyone's interested in joining that, you can check out our website. But happy to be here, happy to bring our representation for the industry, and happy to contribute however we can.
Thank you, Todd. Big Rivers Electric, I believe Nathan Berry is on. Nathan, if you would like to unmute.
Good morning, everyone. Nathan Berry, I'm at Big Rivers Electric. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Big Rivers. We're the other generation and transmission cooperative in the state of Kentucky. We do serve 22 counties. We're owned by three distribution co-ops, Jackson Purchase, Kennergy, and Meade County. We do have a pretty diverse portfolio in generation between gas, coal, and carbon-free energy. But we're always looking to try to diversify our energy portfolio as much as we can, and we're very excited about being in this group.
Thank you, Nathan. And then Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership, Mr. Corey Hicks, if you'd like to unmute.
Yeah, thanks, Kenya. I'm Corey Hicks with Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership. We're the large deactivation and remediation contractor at the U.S. Department of Energy site in Paducah, Kentucky. And we're in the process of cleaning that up. The Department of Energy site has long been involved in nuclear industry and is not something that this area is unfamiliar with. I also am the past chair of the Paducah Chamber of Commerce, which has been kind of the lead advocacy organization related to nuclear and particularly the LEAPR Act that was passed back in 2017. Also, Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership is owned by 3 companies, Jacobs, Fluor, and BWXT. I work for Fluor as part of that LLC, and Fluor, as many of you know, is a majority investor in the NuScale technology, a small modular reactor technology that they're in the process of commercializing. Also, kind of part of my expertise, I'm a former Energy and Commerce Committee staffer in Washington, D.C., who worked on various policy initiatives for all energy sources, but also nuclear energy. So I'm excited about this forum and look forward to the participation.
Thank you, Corey. And we'll go to, if Kara is with us, Kara was en route to the airport. Kara Colton is going to be representing the Energy Communities Alliance, so the community perspective, which is very important in this discussion. Kara, if you're still online, you can unmute and provide some welcoming remarks.
Thanks, Kenya. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, my name is Kara Colton. I'm the Director of Nuclear Policy for the Energy Communities Alliance. We were fortunate enough to host the meeting in Paducah last week in Kentucky, which was super exciting. We represent the community voice. We have been a longstanding organization representing the communities that host the Department of Energy's federal nuclear facilities, but we recently started the New Nuclear Initiative, and that is looking to bring in communities, local governments, elected officials, economic development entities from communities outside of the DOE nuclear complex to ensure that we have a louder voice and that the community needs in terms of how to communicate with industry, national labs, state, federal governments about the resources that they have, the visioning exercises that they're doing, and what you want for the community vision and how to incorporate that into new nuclear development. So we are now expanding outside of the DOE complex, and we were excited to have last week in Kentucky folks from Virginia, from Arkansas. Today I'm at the Nebraska Advanced Nuclear Forum. So we're super excited to ensure that the host communities have a voice as development goes forward. Thanks for letting me be on this. I'm excited about it. Thanks, Kenya.
Thank you, Kara, for being here and representing the community perspective. Next, our National Lab representative, we invited Christine King and the Idaho National Lab to be our National Lab representative. We could only pick one, and we've already had a relationship with Idaho National Lab, and they gave the team on some nuclear work in Kentucky. So Christine is actually just came off stage in Nebraska. So Christine, if you're online, you can unmute.
Yes, I'm here. And also calling from Nebraska on the Kentucky Working Group, writing with a Team Pennsylvania pen. So we are all in at the States. And yes, I'm very excited to have arrived at this point with Kentucky. We met more than 18 months ago. And it was, how do we talk about nuclear? How do we talk about all of the above in Kentucky? How do we make the most of the resources that Kentucky has? So while you only have one national lab representative, the cool thing about GAIN is we work with all the labs. So if we need resources from the labs, I will be bird dogging that on everyone's behalf.
And lastly, before we get into our Senate and House representatives, we have the Nuclear Energy Institute, Christine Sismadia or Mark Nichols. If you're online, you can unmute and turn on your camera.
Thanks, Kenya. Hi, folks. Christine Chismadia with the Nuclear Energy Institute. NEI is the national trade association that represents the commercial nuclear industry. We're very excited and eager to support the work of the working group. We're very engaged in all of the states and have been supportive of all of the progress that Kentucky has made over the years, including the repeal of the nuclear moratorium. So whatever we can do to support the progress of the working group, we're here for it. Thank you.
We've heard from Senator Carroll and Senator Webb. Our House members are Representative Rudy and Representative Gordon. If you're online, Representative Rudy, you can unmute and provide some remarks.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you. If Senator Webb is just an old coal miner, I'm just an old farm boy. And it is, I'm excited about this. Proudly represent the First House District, the home of the, after redistricting back in the First House District, Paducah Gaseous Diffusion site that's out here that's meant so much to our community. And, you know, I'm excited about the potential here. We have long embraced nuclear in far Western Kentucky. We've been part of it. I was very excited after years and years of attempting to get the LEAPR Act passed, to be the one who carried it on the House side in 2017, and really started this process. Thank Senator Carroll for all his work to get us here, and I am really excited about this working group and the future and potential that we have for expanding our energy portfolio in the future here in the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Representative. And then do we have Representative Gordon on?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm excited to be a part of this group and to work with the other members as well. And I guess my interest would be threefold. I'm in Madison County, and of course at the Bluegrass Army Depot, we've been doing some nuclear demilitarization with the ammunition that's stored there. So our community is a little more educated as far as that type of thing. And so I'm looking at it to see if it's a potential replacement activity for that site. The other issue is in regards to the workforce development and training that has to come along with any type of nuclear installation. And so we have two wonderful vocational schools, and of course with Eastern Kentucky University, looking at the workforce training aspect. And then on a personal level, my husband is an employee at East Kentucky Power. He works in the coal lab. So I'm hearing bits and pieces at home, as well as the importance of the stability of the grid and being able to provide reliable energy. And then just as a side note, my sister did work at Fernald for some time. So very much a layperson, but just an area of interest. And I think it's very important for our Commonwealth moving forward to be looking at these options. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, I'd like to give Victor an opportunity as our contractor and technical representative to introduce himself and the Nuclear Innovation Alliance and what support they can bring to the work group. And then we'll get into the meat of it. So go ahead, Victor.
Thank you so much, Kenya. Good morning, everyone. My name is Victor Barra. My background is in nuclear engineering, and I work for the Nuclear Innovation Alliance. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank based out of Washington, D.C. We have a wide range of expertise, whether it's my background in nuclear engineering or my executive director, Judy Greenwald's expertise in policy and climate in the past 20 years. Really, we're experts in a wide range of fields, whether it's regulatory modernization, deep decarbonization modeling, but really we want to make sure that we provide independent expertise to this working group. So I'm very excited to be here and be working with all of you. And I look forward to my one-on-one conversations so we can really make sure that we do good work here and get Senator Carroll his report by December.
Well, thank you so much. So before we get into it, I just want to be very transparent and aware. Nuclear is a topic that we have a long history with. We have some legacy issues around nuclear. We all have some legacy perspectives that we bring into this. We are a state with no nuclear generation experience. However, our opportunities in the nuclear space exist not just beyond power generation. What we're here to look at today is everything from fuel to power generation to how nuclear can support expansion of our manufacturing sector and our industrial base, to also how we can play in the supply chain. Everything we do today and over the next few months will focus on those main areas, from fuel, reactor placement, to supply chain, and how our industrial customers and how economic development can play into how we support the nuclear industry. With that said, there are a lot of issues we're going to have to work through and identify. We won't identify solutions over the next few months, but we'll identify issues of concerns, potential solution sets, and more importantly, how we can have a permanent group that will work on what we identify over the next few months to create a pathway forward for Kentucky in the nuclear space. States around us are moving. Tennessee made an announcement, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio had an announcement just this week. NuScale made an announcement. So it's not going to happen overnight. If you're going to work in nuclear, it's a long haul. We're talking between now and 2050. It's going to require sustained focus and sustained work as we work through all of the issues. Knowing good and well that nuclear may not be an option for many of our communities, and that's where it resides at the local level, and educating our local communities about how they can potentially play in the nuclear economy. So with that, we're going to get into what we're going to do over the next few months. And yes, you will have homework. I know it's been a while, but we're going to have homework assignments. We're going to get it done. So Senator Carroll, with his help, we passed Senate Joint Resolution 79. It specified specific tasks and objectives that this work group will accomplish over the summer with a report for December. Work group task number 1, identify barriers to the deployment of nuclear power generation, but I also think we should also think about that in the context of the overall nuclear economy and other related technologies in the Commonwealth, including but not limited to, and there are barriers we all know in each of these categories that we're going to have to identify and work through. So any regulatory barriers that we can identify, statutory, financial, social, environmental, workforce, and educational barriers that may exist. This is our first tab. So in June, we will be focused on barriers. We'll convene and review barriers, and then we'll move on to tasks 2 after June. Number 2, develop recommendations for how a permanent nuclear energy commission could address the barriers that we just identified into the deployment of nuclear power generation resources and other related technologies in the Commonwealth. And with that, we have Victor here, and with the help of Christine and the Nuclear Energy Institute, consult with any of our federal, state, local agencies, nonprofits, private industry, or other stakeholders on what role the Permanent Nuclear Energy Commission should be. So we'll be identifying the mission, scope, objectives, and the structure of what a Permanent Nuclear Energy Commission could look like in the state of Kentucky. We'll have to include those recommendations by December 1st to the Legislative Research Commission. And finally, by December 1st, this working group will have to submit a report to the governor and to the LRC on or before December 1st. If you know me, it's not going to be December 1st, it'll be before December 1st. Part of that, we will detail all of our working group activities, which is why we have a webpage set up for transparency, and all of our meetings will be recorded and documented, and they will be open to the public. We'll provide recommendations for the creation of a permanent nuclear energy commission, where that commission should be placed, staffing needs. And of course, with staffing needs will also come budget needed for the commission. Mission statement, short and long-term goals.
Report to the governor.
Well, I have here. Short and long-term goals and objectives of the commission and the role the commission can play in fostering the development of the nuclear power industry in the Commonwealth. And I think this is one of the most significant aspects of what the commission can do in terms of nuclear economic development and workforce development in the Commonwealth. With that, I'm going to pause and give any of the work group members an opportunity to ask questions, or if you've seen anything, you'd like some clarification on any of the tasks. I was joking when I said this may be the most boring 2 hours you're participating in, because we're really just getting to know each other, making sure we lay a foundation of what we're here to do and what we're here not to do, and how important it is that we get the commission structure correct and we get our report in by December 1st. So I'll take some time if anybody has any comments on SJR 79 and our tasks. Filling you with silence. So with this, I'm going to turn it over to Victor. Victor and I have worked together on a proposed work group schedule, how we'll get through task 1, 2, and 3, and sort of the structure of how we'll participate. So Victor, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kenya. So like Kenya was alluding to, we prepared a proposed work group schedule and what we believe will set us to successfully deliver a report by the December 1st deadline, which will come earlier. But the first working group task, getting to know each other, we're doing that today. That's May 24th, orientation meeting, making sure we set up the foundational basis to begin one-on-one calls, and I'm going to start scheduling with you shortly. So later this week or early after the holiday on Monday, I'll be reaching out and asking you to set up a one-on-one call with me. And later this month, between the weeks of June 5th and June 30th, where we're going to be discussing a little bit about what we think the barriers are to new nuclear deployment in the state of Kentucky. With that, I will also be reaching out with some homework that I'm going to be giving to you. So it may have been a long time for a few of you in the room, but I'm going to be giving and sharing with you a few documents that I feel like would be very good background for you to have as we begin our one-on-one calls in June. In mid to late June, we're going to convene, as Kenya was saying earlier, and discuss some of these barriers that we had in our one-on-one calls and make sure that we reach alignment on how the commission could support reducing these barriers in our second meeting. In August, we're going to research on existing working groups that exist in other states and also commission structures that have been established in other states that are also moving along with nuclear energy in their state, and potential sessions of other working groups. So one example that we have or are potentially thinking about is bringing in someone like the Virginia Nuclear Energy Consortium and learning about what their structure was like and how that's put them in a place where they are moving forward with studying nuclear energy in the state of Virginia, considering that they also have a history of nuclear power in their state as well.
We'll also probably hear from Idaho. Idaho is the Line Commission, the Leadership in Nuclear Energy Commission. It was established via executive order. It has a very robust structure, but different to Kentucky. It's very much centered around the national laboratory there. So we're going to hear from various work groups in other states so that we can identify best practices from those work groups and how a permanent commission would need to be structured in Kentucky so that it meets the needs of all of our stakeholders and our communities as we move forward.
Absolutely. After that, we should be complete with the first work group task, and we'll be moving on to the second work group task. this is when we're going to start meeting and how to recommend a structure that we believe would establish a very effective permanent nuclear commission here in the state of Kentucky. After that third meeting in early to mid-September, that's when I will be very, very, very busy working with Kenya and the rest of the working group members here, making sure that we finalize what we believe this commission could look like and begin writing our report as well that we're going to deliver at the beginning of December. So the writing is really going to start in early mid-October, just to make sure that we have an iterative process where we make sure that we collect all the comments and feedback from all the working group members, and also make sure that we deliver a very good report to Senator Carroll to make sure that we summarize the efforts and the research that we did, and also recommend a structure of a commission that can really help the Commonwealth move forward with studying the feasibility of nuclear energy and how that can really provide an opportunity for the constituents here in the Commonwealth to benefit from nuclear energy moving forward with the commission's help.
Thank you, Victor.
You're welcome.
So just to lay it out, we're here today for our just orientation kickoff meeting, get to know each other. We'll have some homework assignments in June. Victor and I are working on trying to make identifying barriers as efficient and streamlined a process as we can. For those of you who've done some of the pre-reading, a lot of the barriers have already been written in many reports, such as capital costs, public perception, safety concerns, nuclear proliferation risk, the issue with how do we deal with waste. So there are a lot of barriers that are already documented. I'm going to be asking Victor to streamline where our existing barriers have been documented. You all will be tasked to review those to identify does this look complete and sort of what are your priorities from your organization's perspective. And then we'll identify potential solution sets that have already been identified, but also any solution sets that may be Kentucky specific that the permanent nuclear commission can work on once it's established. So that's a little bit what's happening in June. We will have, Christine has her hand raised. Christine, go ahead, unmute. You're good to go.
Okay, so my question is somewhere between issues and potential solution sets. Do you want us to think about the unique assets that Kentucky has to contribute to those solutions?
Yes, I think that's a good point, Christine. And our work with Jane has already gone down this road a little bit, but I think in part of the report is a lot of the issues and barriers are nationwide issues, but we do know that we have Kentucky specific assets and Kentucky specific concerns that we also need to address as well. In addition to how those assets and concerns should be addressed long term. So Christine, do you have a suggestion on maybe how working with Victor, we can kind of work through that?
Yeah, I think we can start with some of what we already know in terms of capturing the participation in 3 hydrogen hub proposals, those types of things. I think Kenya, maybe between the 3 of us, we can at least get an initial list, and then the rest of the folks on the working group can, from their perspective, add what else is in Kentucky that is unique to solving, bridging that gap and solving those problems.
So like, for instance, Christine, just to draw that out a bit more, maybe the fact that we have our steel, aluminum industry, we have a Calvert City chemical industry kind of cluster there. We have industry clusters around areas of the state that could play into how nuclear is utilized and consumed. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, I also think that, in terms of, the transmission, the transmission infrastructure that you have, as well as the the human resources from retiring fossil, right? Retiring either power plants or coal mines, right? I think those are, not every state has that. It's a rich resource.
Thanks, Christine. So we'll get with, that'll be a separate conversation in June that we'll have around identifying our Kentucky specific assets. But also for the other work group members, if there are assets that we haven't identified that are Kentucky specific, please make sure when you have your conversations. Yes.
I'm gonna mention something that's Kentucky unique, it's not
Yes.
necessarily an asset. It's a huge barrier, especially in my neck of the woods, and historically for me as policymakers. Because I think I voted for the Labor Act as a gift to my retiring good friend. Because I have never supported it before. And that's because of, Kentucky has a rich history with being, I think, one of maybe the first state back in the 60s with the Atomic Commission and whatnot. And our experience in waste disposal was not a good one. And Maxie Flats, I grew up with Maxie Flats. I've represented workers as an attorney. I stand up and talk about every time we talk about this. And I think, notwithstanding our fossil culture, which I was part of and still am, but it's very hard for my people to get their head around this issue because of our experience with Maxi Flats and the failures in that disposal side and whatnot. And I think I'm glad to be here. Don't get me wrong, policy won't probably knows that. But that's just on my heart to say, and let me preface my participation here with those workers in mind, and once again, because that is really problematic for those of us in East Kentucky.
No, well, and I think that's a very good point, that we can't be blind to our legacy issues. One, we can be proud of how we served our nuclear mission at the gas distribution site. But we also have to realize that in serving and completing that nuclear mission, we had Maxi Flats and we have an existing cleanup and remediation work at gas distribution that will go well into 2050s, 2060s, right? And the waste disposal issue is a concern, not just here because of our legacy issues, but also nationwide in terms of as we move into a future that may include more nuclear generation. We are going to have to specifically address community concerns, community voices, and how we incorporate those voices in any kind of decision moving forward. And I'm from Muhlenberg County, so I'm very sensitive to the transition that has been occurring. So I'm sensitive to the plight of our workforce in the energy sector, but also this could present an opportunity. We have workers that are highly skilled that work in a thermal plant, you can work in the difference is, how are you making the hot water, right? But you've got skilled workforce and that this has the potential for some good paying jobs. I also need to remind everyone that this work group is all of the above. I support coal, fossil, renewables, natural gas in the Office of Energy Policy. So we work in all of that. My participation here is that if we are all of the above, there's one all of the above that's been missing in our discussions. And that is our role that we can play as nuclear. So nuclear and Victor's making notes. So
Yeah.
that is something that we have to definitely address and be sensitive to moving forward. Any other comments?
Kenya,
Yes, Senator Carroll.
And you summarized that very eloquently, and I appreciate everything you said. And I agree. It's, for our state, and it's not just about nuclear reactors. It is about our coal industry. It's about our kids' future. And I think this is a way that we can maybe revitalize some of these areas. And I know specifically with coal miners, it's a different issue, but with the coal-fired plants, and I spoke with the gentleman last week that they're already in the process of trying to get something going in that area, in a plant that's going to close down, that maybe it can be converted to nuclear and save some jobs. And I was also encouraged when I spoke with someone in the nuclear industry, and when they talked about workforce, they talked about training people who came in, who have worked in coal-fired plants, and being able to utilize existing workforce and not necessarily have to have so much specialty training or education background, but having the ability to prepare these folks on the job training in essence. And so I'm excited I know in West Kentucky, but in Eastern Kentucky also, that the future, as we keep a balanced portfolio, that we can make up for some of the losses that we've had, that we've taken in the coal industry. And I just think that there are ways that if we're careful and use a measured approach, that we can make some good things happen in Eastern Kentucky. So that part of it really, I feel stronger about that than ever before. And I think we need to, as an economic development tool, that be part of the conversation for our areas who have coal-fired plants and planning for their future. And Robin, one other thing that for you, I wanted to mention, I wish that you could have made the forum last week. The advances in the technology are mind-boggling now. The fuel, the types of fuel, the way the fuel is being utilized, which has an ability to recycle, has an ability to store much more safely in some of the newer technologies. There is so much to be learned and so much happening and so much that is yet to be discovered that probably will be in the next few years. So, I think it is crucial that we educate our state as much as we can, and we've got to start within the legislature. And, I think it would ease a lot of minds if they were just exposed to what is happening, not just in our country, but throughout the world, in fuel recycling and storage, makeup of fuel, different types of fuel. And so, Robin, maybe we can get in your hands some information that kind of covers the new technology. And there's still a lot more research that I want to do based on what I heard last week with types of reactors that can be used on site with certain industrial facilities and things of that nature. And it's fascinating where we're headed, and there are so many opportunities that I feel like that we can present to our state with a good load, a dependable load, a base load energy, and utilizing power with coal as much as we can, utilizing solar, wind, whatever balance that we feel we need to come to. And this has got to be a positive thing. And I think it's crucial that it's got to start with us, that all members of this working group, outside of those in the field, have really got to be educated on where we are in technology, so our message forward can be united and be a very educated presentation. I'll stop there. Thanks, Kenya.
Thank you, Senator. Corey, I believe I saw your hand raised. Corey Hicks.
Yeah, and Senator Carroll covered a lot of that. There's no doubt that Paducah and the gaseous diffusion plant has played a role in nuclear and some of those legacy issues. I would just say that our workforce and how that has evolved over the years is something that's worth talking about, because the way that we talk about nuclear and work through things at the gaseous diffusion plant as we're cleaning it up is certainly something that we take great care for. So I think, that evolution process to get us to where we are today is something that definitely strengthens safety, as Senator Carroll pointed out. And I think that if you look at sort of the gaseous diffusion plant as a test case, then you can start to understand that our workforce and just some of the benefits that we've been able to see through that would be helpful as we put the report together.
Thank you, Corey. Back to our timeline. July will be our second meeting. We'll finish up barriers and again, being very honest and open about all of the barriers that exist, such as the ones that we identify as we have legacy issues and public perception and community concerns. So talking about that in July. August, we'll move into looking at commissions and structures in other states, and we'll begin our discussion of the work group about what structure would benefit the Commonwealth. Victor will be involved in that as well. And then we'll get into report writing in October, and we'll do multiple iterations then. So June to-do items. We have a Microsoft Teams channel. Everyone in the work group has been added. I realize Teams is problematic for some people. So, and I've got multiple calls of my Teams at work doesn't work with the Teams there. And I'm not IT, but I will try to get you IT support. In absence of that, we're moving a lot of our Teams resources to the website so that we have all of our Teams resources on the Nuclear Work Group website. So we'll be putting all of those resources there. In the meantime, I will try to get you a lot of access to the Teams channel because I actually post a lot in that channel in terms of news and updates, articles, and educational resources. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll talk after this, but please make sure you're checking the Nuclear Work Group Teams channel and that you're able to access it because there are a lot of documents and resources there that the work group will be using. So for June with Victor, I'd like you all to go back and think about, let's look at the barriers in each of those categories, but from your perspective, what are your top barriers that you see from your perspective? And be prepared to cite language from relevant reports or resources that support your barrier. That's important because to be as efficient as possible, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If we have good language from somewhere else, let's use it and cite it. Victor, to make that easier, we'll be sending you all a document with each of the barriers identified in the resolution. Victor has already started working on barriers identified in each of those categories. We'll be asking you as work group members to add to those barriers and to clarify and prioritize those barriers. Please be on the lookout for Victor and that one-on-one call. That's how we get the work done. Our shaping question as we move into June is how can a permanent commission in Kentucky best support reducing the barriers we identified? And that's what I need you to have in your heads and thinking about in June and have conversations within your organization around the shaping question as we come out in June and come into our July meeting. So what you will look to coming into June, we'll have a literature review package to help everyone begin the process. NIA will send out an email requesting one-on-one time and we'll get that scheduled. And we'll start to move forward with the barriers. And then Christine mentioned I'll be meeting with Victor and Christine and we'll start talking about Kentucky-based assets and issues that are specific to Kentucky. I would encourage you all to think of that as well. For instance, for For my utilities in the room, transmission constraints, I don't, I act like I'm a transmission engineer. Do we have system limitations that we need to be aware of? Do we have, RTO issues that we need to be aware of? Do we have things like that that are unique to your all's organization and perspective that you need to bring to the table in terms of your expertise? So think about that as well. But also, you all have assets too that can play into this, and so I think just try to start forming those ideas and meeting with your staff. These are some of my favorite resources. So if you Google advanced reactors and how am I going to say this? NIA's got great resources. NEI's got great resources. Idaho National Lab's got great resources. DOE's got great resources. You can just get lost in how much has been written and the resources that you need to utilize. I've kind of narrowed it down, the ones that I think do a very good job of citing kind of known issues, good references, good information. We've got policy guides, we've got Nuclear 101 information if you need it. If you're a new work group member and you need to come up to speed real quick, you let Victor or I know, get you those resources. As Senator Carroll said, like the types of advanced reactors, the technologies. You've got Dr. Andrews here who can do his nuclear one as well. So the first one I really like is Advanced Nuclear Reactors Technology Overview and Current Issues. That was updated February of this year. I think it does a good job talking about technology types, reactor types, workforce safety, proliferation risk, public perception, cost. I know that's there, cost, and where that's going. That's a great summary report that we can draw from. After that, recently, DOE launched Pathways to Commercial Liftoff, Advanced Nuclear. It does a great job at really identifying in order for nuclear and more specifically, advanced nuclear. We're not going to build Vogtle again. We're not going to build a reactor like we had, like our conventional reactors. It's not going to be done again. They're not on time and they're not on budget. And yes, I've heard it from all of you, those things. So we're really talking about what advanced reactors will look like in the future and what it's going to take to get there. I think Commercial Liftoff does a good job at talking about the challenges over the next 10, 20 years to get our advanced reactors out there and deployed. So those, if you're going to read things, read these two. And cite what resonates with you and what kind of speaks to you from your organization's perspective. Things like effective load carrying capability, LCOEs for air in the room, how we model it, but like those things are in these reports, but also economic development, supply chain, fuel processing, all of that is in the report as well. This is our work group's webpage. I'll send that out to everyone after this. We will put this recording on the webpage as well as the transcript of the meeting, and as well as this PowerPoint presentation for everyone's reference. Any questions on June homework? I'm gonna get you
Are
all.
we gonna get a grade, Kenya?
Well, you know me, Christine. Do great things, so. And two, we're gonna have a little bit of fun, like we're all here today, but it should be a fun work group. We're gonna do some good work, and we'll come home with a report in December. And but feel free to get to know each other. You have each other's contact information. It's a good opportunity to reach out and just talk to your fellow work group members, as well as to Victor moving forward. Christine, if you want to talk to Christine though, but you're gonna have to find her. She's on the road a lot.
In between the conference.
Well, you're home now, Christine, right? You're in California now for a while.
No, I'm in Nebraska and then I go to Utah and Colorado next week and then I'm back to California. So
So, all right, in June sometime, Christine.
in June sometime, I'll be in California.
So Christine's a great resource as well. Also, Christine, can you tell everybody about your voucher program just for work group members?
Sure, I'd love to talk about our voucher program. So the voucher program in its most simple form allows private companies to write a work scope for national lab scientists and experts to execute. It does need to have a nexus to commercialization of nuclear technology. We open on a quarterly basis and execute the work within a year. So we close from the time that we close to announcing awards is also 6 weeks. The work scope, you can have one application per opening, so one application per quarter. And it's a 80-20 cost share. But basically when you write the work scope, we sign a standard CRADA. It's a standard contract that we don't negotiate. And that's because we want to get to work. So it's important before you apply to look at that contract and make sure you can sign up for those terms and conditions. We are looking for work scopes that are executable within a 1-year calendar time period. And each application caps out at $500,000. But for those companies that are new to nuclear or exploring it, this is a great way to get started. The results of the work are protected to you for 5 years. So it enables, especially if you're working on something a little more strategic in terms of how you might want to implement nuclear, then GAIN is not out there publishing your results for everyone to see your strategy. I highly encourage, if you're interested in the voucher as a pathway for you to work with us first. We do want to help folks make sure that there are some nuances that can trip you up in the application process, and we try to make sure that everybody is as successful as they can be on the first application. If you're not successful, we also give you real feedback. So you're not going to get the, hey, you weren't successful, good luck next time letter. We will actually sit down and talk with you about places where the application could be strengthened.
And Christine, could you elaborate one of your voucher work is getting a lot of attention, the one with Dow. Could you just talk a little bit about that, what you're doing with Dow?
Yeah, so as these nuclear technologies move closer to commercialization, we're seeing end users come in to do studies about how the technology might fit. And in particular, with Dow Chemical, and just for fun, we went public with Dow Chemical before X Energy did, but who's keeping score? But Dow is working with us to look at the thermal integration of their industrial processes with a variety of different advanced reactor designs. And so one of the things, this isn't just, so you tend to think about the national labs and technology development, but we have research economists, we have folks that can do capacity planning, integrated energy systems, thermal integration, how this pairs with hydrogen. So no idea is too small. And if you don't know the national lab resource that might be useful to you, we do. So if you just start with us, we will go to work on your behalf to kind of get you connected to the right resources if the voucher is a right pathway for you.
And I think Christine's point, the reason why I wanted Christine to talk about Dow is, and I know this may echo with Mike at the end of the table, is with our significant industrial base. We have Nuclear, which is an investor in NuScale, and NuScale just made an announcement with Nuclear to explore advanced nuclear at Nuclear facilities. And I have Dow Chemical working with X Energy. So in addition to our utilities, we actually have actual end users that are exploring how they can integrate into kind of a nuclear ecosystem, whether that be hydrogen utilization, the thermal side, or even on-site power generation. So I think that's something unique to Kentucky that we will need to throw out in our report as both opportunity and a potential challenge from a utility perspective in terms of when you have end-use customers adopting a technology such as this behind the meter. You know, what do we have to think about moving forward? So this is your resources for June and your homework. Thanks, Christine. So now we have some time. I'm going to be able to give you some time back on your Wednesday. We have some questions and discussion time. And I'll open it up to anybody in the room who would like to, what you heard today.
A few comments.
Yeah.
Probably did a very good job.
Oh, yeah.
Aligning our tasks ahead of us. It's quite daunting to think about December 1st is that far away. And I appreciate your comments about in order to make this timeline, we're going to have to fly. Let's talk about the barriers, for instance. Well documented. We can't really add to that. You can identify specific Kentucky issues associated with it. I think that's where we should put our time. I think it's going to be important for this group to work at setting up positive why we need to have some form of reliable baseload power 20, 30 years from now as we make that transition. The last coal plant has been built and is operating. And 20 to 30 years developing a scalable nuclear economy here in Kentucky isn't a long time. So I think our focus, so that we don't get too many tangents on wicked barriers, focus on all the positives, why we need to have a sustainable, ecologically friendly, and the bad news about nuclear power is been in the news for 20, 30 years. 3 Mile Island, but new technologies take care of a lot of that issue. Let's focus on the positives and why we support Kentucky to make this transition. Because one thing that we have in Kentucky is a strong economic development. That don't make this transition correctly. And I wish coal didn't have that kind of a time. It is such an important part of East Kentucky. It's so important for the states to work together. The fact of the matter is, it's getting more costly. You know, the regulatory environment is tightening, and it's at some point it's not going to make sense for our constituents to put the bill for additional applications. But that's hopefully that's down the future. But we really need to focus on the opportunity that it presents to us, because that really is the mistake of my Ireland for the alternative base level out there. It's really important for this transition. And then this commission that we're tasked with putting the parameters around what is to do for the state. That should be the champion of this. So I just think we need to be really cognizant of the fact that we shouldn't run down rabbit holes. We should stay focused on the positive what we can affect, what we can do to get to December 1st or ahead of schedule. That's my speech.
No, thank you so much. You know, I think there's I have a lot of sensitivity around the word transition, but you're in Office of Energy Policy, we're under all of the above. So I like to think about nuclear as adding it to the mix when we've gotten everything that we've gotten out of our current assets. And you know, I was working the December event, And, you know, our coal, well, I'm not gonna talk about TVA assets, but our assets in Kentucky were there. And our coal assets were there when we needed them, and it could have been a whole lot worse if we did not have those assets there. That said, they will come an end of life eventually for those assets. And to your point, it's a sustainable, highly reliable baseload resource that can support robust industrial activity. We can support the manufacturing because advanced nuclear will not be, you're not going to build it on site. It's built in a facility and delivered on site, is what advanced nuclear is in the future. And so I think it also, the ability to be burned and integrate variable resources will be so important as we move forward. And the fact that it is that sustainable, low carbon, highly reliable baseload power. That is there when we need it and runs 24/7 at 99.99. It's got a soup. What is the capacity factor here? 99%, probably. Fairly high. So and so I agreed on. I think we have to be realistic about the issues that Senator Webb mentioned, but then also the opportunities that this presents to us and the important work that has to be done in order for us to, in 20, 30 years, we cannot not do this work. Like what I'm saying, if we don't come forward with this, then we risk economic development, we risk all the gains that we've made, because other states will quickly step into the space, and we're seeing them step into space. So I appreciate everyone's comments, participation. I look forward to working with you over the next several months, and to delivering our report in December. And feel free to reach out to me or Victor if you're in the state and you'd like to come chat. I'd be happy to come chat with you, and we can do some interim work together. But that pretty much concludes. I mean, I'm usually efficient. But the greatest gift I can give back to you all today is your time, because we're all time constrained. Ms. Filler, did you want to add anything as we close? You're the nuclear kind of powerhouse of Duke here.
Yeah, we're really excited, Kenya, about this conversation and driving towards solutions that will really support the economic growth of the Commonwealth. I guess I just had a question thinking about what Don said and really trying to keep our focus on that end goal. Appreciate your thoughts on whether we might do or you've contemplated polling. We learn that even within our smaller territories, you can have difference of opinion from one county to the next. And just want to be sure that we're really understanding the sentiments and the opportunities as we look to craft successful outcomes.
Polling the work group or polling the public?
Polling the public.
Okay, Victor, we'll have to follow up on that. I think we could do that and work to do that. Lane, we could definitely use your organizational support with that, to reaching communities, and with ECA, Energy Communities Alliance, to reach out to communities. So I think that is definitely.
Well, that helps the educational component. If you can identify your demographic that needs educated, we can focus more on that. I mean, and from the East Kentucky standpoint, you know, we want parity in opportunity. And that's what I'm the advocate for East Kentucky 606. But it's like, you know, we want parity in opportunity. We don't, and my people historically, you know, we're the dumping ground, we're the this, we're the that. We're not going to be that. And we've got to form a commission that ensures that there's parity throughout the Commonwealth, along with, and you know, again, my priority, worker safety, environmental safety. And we've got to craft a commission that alleviates those fears for that demographic when it's identified, because it's out there.
I think we can, Ms. Miller. I think between the organizations that we have and the resources here in the cabinet. I think we can do so.
Great, thank you.
And Representative Gordon, I see your hands raised.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to acknowledge that I noticed that Representative Jim Gooch, our House Energy Chair, is joining today, and I just wanted to give the opportunity to recognize him and give him the opportunity to make comments.
Yes, Representative Gooch, feel free to unmute if you'd like to provide some comments.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, I'm glad to be here today and really enjoyed the conference in Paducah. And I represent the West Kentucky, what used to be the West Kentucky coalfields. And I'm in my 29th year as a state representative, chairing the Natural Resources Committee for over 25 years. But my really primary concern has always been reliability and affordability. And we can't maintain that without baseload generation. And the one thing that I do like about nuclear is it checks all those boxes. You have on-site fuel storage. You know, it's 85-90% efficient, runs 24/7. And so it checks all the boxes of baseload. And I just think we need to speed up this process a little bit because at the rate that we're retiring other baseload generation with sources that we can't, intermittent sources that can't really fill the bill, we're going to have to, I think, embrace this technology. And but it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank Representative Gordon for recognizing me, and I'd be willing to help any way that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gooch. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, with that, I don't see any other hands. Any last call?
I'd just like to say real quickly, Kenya, kudos to you and to Secretary Goodman for getting this group together and pushing this conversation forward. Thank you.
Aaron and I came into nuclear under Secretary Peters. And so we can't help but remember his voice as he was kind of guiding us into the nuclear space. So he is missed and remembered here today with his work in the nuclear space. So we're honored to continue that conversation. And with that, you'll be hearing from Victor. And feel free to reach out to me and please be your homework. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.